Wow, we are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. Oh my goodness, we got folks tuning in from Turkey. We got Latin America. Oh, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate the heck out of you. Ryan, Jonas, good to have you here. George, Nick, dude, Nick, I'm gonna get some show bacon right after I'm done this. I'm starving. I can't eat before a show, so this is super good. Yeah, I love the waiting screen. Yeah, I had to emulate a VCR. Like it's just I had no other choice. So welcome everybody. Let's get this show started. I am so thrilled to have everybody here today to talk about Multiview for NDI and some of the updates that we've got. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. It is time to get, yeah, I know. I thought my office looked crazy. I have three microwave dishes behind me. They're the Ubiquity or Unify, whatever they are. And when the weather gets a little bit better, we're going to be taking those outside and doing some NDI long distance tests to prepare for a marathon. Hey, Mike, welcome. Hello, good afternoon, morning, depending on where you are. All right, let's get this party started. Let's talk about Multiview for NDI. I don't want to waste anybody's time here. So, Jonas is already asking, are you using Multiview right now? Don't get ahead of me, sir. Do not get ahead of me. All right, let's talk about Multiview and where we've been. I am super excited to do a little bit of show and tell on this session. I've been working on this new version of Multiview for something like a year now. And this journey's been really cool. And first off, I have to say, for everybody that's tuned in, again, thank you so much. Hey, Michael Lang, how you doing? Good to have you on. It's been a wild journey. Where did we start and where do we go from? How do we get here? So back about, I want to say 2 years ago, I created a really quick multi-viewer. I called it Tractus Multiviewer for NDI, and it was a Windows-only app, and it was, I threw it together like in 2 or 3 days, and threw it up on Gumroad just for the heck of it. And it was cool, and it kind of served a good purpose, but it had a lot of limitations, right? The performance wasn't that good, but it kind of got the job done. And the original motivation behind making that original multi-view was because I was getting tired of opening a whole bunch of studio monitor instances to control the PTZ cameras that we were using at our events. So it turned out to be like the most downloaded application that I had put out on GitHub or on Gumroad. And on Gumroad, I still have a bunch of applications up there. They're free to download, like the source generator. There's still source generator. There's a MDNS debug tool. There's a bunch of other stuff on there. So I was getting tired of launching a bunch of studio monitor instances to control PTZ, so I made this real quick multi-view. And it worked okay, but again, the performance honestly was not that good. So I took what I made and I combined it with some old game programming experience, right? So I come from the old school world of like making Game Boy Advance games. Like that's what I spent my high school days doing, is making Game Boy Advance games. So making a rendering engine and making a video game engine are actually pretty closely related, as it turns out. So I refined that engine and I made it cross-platform. So that was the multi-view that is kind of out, that was out last year. I released that back at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. So this ran on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It was written in C#, written against .NET, and cross-platform. It worked as well, but once we started to do some more testing for some more advanced use cases, for example, doing headless output, right? We ran into some problems. And the problems that we ran into was that without some major hacks, because it was powered using Simple Direct Media Library, SDL. If you've never used SDL, chances are if you played a game in the last like 20 or 30 years on the PC, you have played an SDL-based game. The performance wasn't the best out of this. Headless really wasn't happening, and it required some crazy hacks to make work. And one of the biggest requests that I was getting for feature was we wanted to have no requirement for a GPU and headless, right? So supporting those cloud scenarios where we don't have GPUs. And I needed to do some crazy hacks to make that work at all. So headless was not happening. So then I thought, well, what if what if we could make a cross-platform headless version with better performance and HX output? So what if we could do that? I'll just, yeah, Game Boy Advance scene is amazing. I'm also reading the chat while we're live here, Silas. Yeah, the Game Boy Advance scene was so much fun to code for. So yeah, what if we could make a cross-platform headless version with HX output and better performance and drop the GPU requirements? That was one of my biggest design goals with this. I wanted to get rid of the requirement for GPU. I wanted to increase the speed. I wanted to avoid any color conversions whatsoever. So is Headless just running on a machine with no GPU? So Headless is running on a machine that may or may not have GPU, but does not require a GUI in order to run. So the existing version actually had a physical output window. The new version of Multiview, I won't spoil it too much, but the new version of Multiview, what I wanted to do was once you run it, if you wanted, it would output via NDI, and you could receive that to whatever you wanted to. And yeah, I didn't want to have any GUI requirements, right? So if you just launch this from the command line or you install it and launch it as a service, I wanted that. Plus, I wanted HX output because we're seeing more and more devices like cameras, right? That are like the BirdDog X1, X5, X5 Ultra that have HX decoders built into them. So wanted to come up with that. So I started writing some code. I started getting busy writing code, right? I pulled out all the different NDI devices I possibly could and started writing a ton of code. Hey, Joe DeBax is in the house. Hey, how you doing? So yeah, started writing some code and pulled together all the devices I could, wrote that custom engine, and I got to a point where the prototype was working and it was pretty fast. So I did what any responsible business owner would do. I decided to use an alpha build in production. So we had, back in November, December, we had a major internal town hall hybrid event for a Fortune 500 company we were working with. And we had 3 downstage monitors. We wanted to display teleprompter, current slides, and questions that were coming in via Slido, along with being able to see current time and any of the remote presenters. So I whipped together a little mini PC, attached 3 heads to it, put it up front, put router in front of it, and it all worked. And I did just this massive jump for joy. One of my guys here, one of our producers here, Luke, just kind of like had to actually peel me off the ceiling in front of the client because I was so freaking happy that the stupid thing worked. It was so much fun. I was clenching a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but it was a lot of fun. Now, when I talk about performance being better, what I mean by that is I'll show you the render times of old Multiview versus the new Multiview. So old Multiview, I pulled out an old ThinkPad T460. It's got 4 cores in it. So I ran the old Multiview versus the new Multiview. This was on Linux. Ingesting 3 high bandwidth 1080p 60 sources, 3 640 by 360 proxy H.264 feeds. So 4 cores, Intel i5 6350U, not a powerful processor at all. Old Multiview, we were seeing render times, 35, 40 milliseconds per frame, like just completely unusable or close to unusable. The new Multiview, we're close to maxing out the CPU on that laptop, but our frame times are only around 14 milliseconds. We're holding a constant 60 FPS output from this laptop. So was super, super thrilled with that. Then a couple days ago, did a little bit more testing, created another build, and thought, hey, can we get this running on the Raspberry Pi 5? I got a Raspberry Pi 5 sitting in my office, and so made an ARM64 build, and we've got Multiview on the Raspberry Pi 5. Full disclosure, Pi 5 is not a performance powerhouse by any means. I'm ingesting 4 proxy feeds and doing 1 full bandwidth output, and we can hold 60 frames per second, but already that's pushing the limits of what the Pi 5 can do. I've got beta builds that I ran on the Rockchip RK3588 processor. I think that's an 8-core and octa-core ARM processor. It runs a lot better on that. I'll get some official performance numbers another time. But yeah, so we've got, so just for those keeping score, we now have this really cool Multiview engine that runs on Windows, runs on Linux. A couple days ago, I got Mac support going, all from one source code base. All from one source code base. So it's not like we're porting from one platform to the other. It is the exact same code being built for all three platforms at the same time and the different architectures. Reason why I'm really excited about having ARM-based support too, like ARM64-based support, is that unlocks being able to use this on AWS instances that run ARM processors. And I believe those are just a little bit less expensive than your Intel and AMD-based alternatives. I'm still kind of surprised the whole thing works. So got this new Multiview engine working and then started to work on integrating the advanced SDK. So first off, shout out to the folks over at NDI. I've worked with them a little bit to get advanced SDK integrated into Multiview, and started working on prototype HX output. And my goal with prototype HX output was to design it in a way that we could swap out the HX encoder based on the platform that we're on. So the goal eventually is to have HX output on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Today, we've got HX output on Windows working no problem, either through software, through Cisco's OpenH264 encoder, which is royalty-free, or through NVIDIA's NVENC. And that requires, I think, version 520 or higher of the drivers, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. I've got some prototype code to make Apple's video toolbox work properly. That's a whole can of worms that we got to get into because Apple is Apple. But the NVENC SDK should be fairly easy to port over. Hey, John Barker, welcome to the party, sir. So now we've got a Multiview that has NDI HX output, plus all the other features that it had before, plus it's headless, plus no more GPU is required to run the thing. Now, if you do have a GPU in your system and you are decoding HX sources, NDI will use that. It just the NDI library is built to automatically use GPU to decode HX sources if it is available. If you don't have GPU available, it'll fall back to CPU-based decode, which is going to be a lot slower than GPU, but hey, better than nothing. So that's where we are today. We've got the new Multiview for NDI, and I'd like to show you a little bit of it. So we're going to hop into a little bit of show and tell. What I've got here on my screen is I've got 3 Multiview instances running. I have one instance running on the Raspberry Pi. I have one instance running on my little ThinkPad beside me, and I have one instance running on a laptop. This one in the lower left is actually outputting NDI HX. And I can flip between these. I'm actually using Tractus Router for NDI as well. So I'm going to flip over to Multiview output 1. This is coming from my laptop here, Tractus Laptop 5, very loyal companion. And this is an NDI HX output. So I'm actually using NVENC to send out H264. So if I flip over to the web controller, let's go to the correct web controller here. Here we go. I'll flip over to Multiview 1. So Multiview for NDI, one really important point about it is that it is API first. As a programmer, I love me some APIs. If you give me an HTTP API, I can pretty much make anything sing and dance. And so that's what we're working with right now. This UI is all HTTP API. HTTP API all the way. So anything that we're doing in the Multiview here is just using all the publicly documented HTTP API routes. And so if I want to, so new version as well, we've also got custom labels. So these are actually updating. So I've got clock here. I've got when we started the Multiview, how long things have been running. We've also got source labels as well, so there's a whole expression engine under the hood as well. So I'll go into the edit layout here, go into this label, and so I've got viewer 0, .viewport 1, .source, and that gives me what source is in viewport at index number 1. And so this will change depending on what sources I assign here. This clock will automatically update. We've got clock 24 and clock 24 UTC. I can move all this stuff around, just draggy droppy stuff. If I want to make a new label, I can say press the C key. I've got a new caption. We call captions labels. So I can say, this is super cool. All right, we're doing stuff that's not scripted. When has that ever gone wrong? All right, I can provide a nice fill for this, deselect this, I'll save the changes, come back to Multiview. There it is. This is super cool. So we have our NDI HX output along with captions. How freaking cool is that? We've also got custom layout editing as well. So if I want to make one of these viewports smaller or bigger, I can just scroll that up and down with the mouse wheel. I can hide and show the borders for those. I can add new viewports in. I've got a whole bunch of viewport templates. Somebody I was talking with, actually, they were running this Multiview. They're running an earlier beta version, and I think we had, how many outputs did they have? I think they had 56 outputs per viewer. So, you know, we can scale up pretty decent, not too bad. One thing I want to highlight too is with this Multiview, I've got multiple Multiview outputs coming out from this one machine. Now, if I were to assign, hey, look at that, I found a bug. Perfect. If I come back in here and I assign a source to this box here, I'm already subscribed to this camera source here. Multiview is set up that if you subscribe to the same source across multiple viewers in the same application, in the same instance, we're not going to tune into that NDI source 2, 3, 4, 8 times. We tune into it once and send the frame to whatever viewers need to see that frame. So we're trying to save on bandwidth that way. Up here in the debug tab, we can actually take a look at the performance. So our render time for viewport 1 is about averaging around 7 milliseconds, and our NDI HX encode time is around 3 milliseconds, which is really cool. We've also got what's called watchdog timer. So if for some reason an NDI source is not sending frames over, say, 5 or 6 seconds, we'll flash up a warning. And then if we still don't receive frames for another 5 seconds after that, we just stop the receiver and restart it. So that's to work around some. We've seen a couple scenarios in production where, you know, sources for some reason will just, you know, fall over, or like there might be some sort of, you know, if you're in a multicast situation, IGMP decides to fall over, you know, we'll just automatically restart those connections. So, question in the chat here from Kevin, are you going to do audio meters? Yes, audio meters are coming, and I'm going to talk about what's going to be coming down the pipeline in kind of Q2, Q3. Jonas, the expression engine is cool as well, being able to add label if it's proxy or HB. Yeah, so we're going to be adding in what kind of stream. That's a good idea, actually. I should add in what kind of stream we're going to be pulling in, if it's going to be the proxy feed or if it's going to be the high bandwidth feed. So that's a quick little tour of the new Multiview for NDI. And again, just to also, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this. Pass-through PTZ control. So you can select one of the viewports. You can select a viewport in Multiview, and you get pass-through PTZ control of that source. So I'm going to right-click on this bird dog source. I'm going to come back into Studio Monitor. And let's see here. Is the demo going to work for me live? Yeah, probably not. We got something to figure out. That's okay. We'll fix that later. That was working before the demo. Every time you go to demo something, stuff breaks, right? It's always great. But we do have pass-through PTZ support. It is there. Trust me on that one. It's a lot of fun. Oh, it's already there. Apparently, the stream format. Apparently, I don't even remember my own expression engine. So thank you, Jonas. You know my product better than that. Live demo at NAB. I am going to be at NAB, by the way. So if you do want to talk Multiview or any of these tools, get my attention, and we can definitely talk about that. So let's see. Can I do the pass-through on that one? No, that's okay. I'll fix that later. All right, so that was a quick little demo. I should also mention that this router, Tractus router for NDI, again, all API driven, and this comes, if you get a license for Multiview for NDI, you also get included with it a copy of router. So let's talk about all the new stuff that is in Multiview for NDI. So like I mentioned before, we have HX output using NVENC. We have HX output using OpenH264. Right now, this is Windows only, but this is going to be coming to Linux and Mac. For Mac, we're going to be targeting using Apple's Video Toolbox because that gives us the H264 and 265. On Linux, we're planning on doing the NVENC and OpenH264. Just got to make some tweaks there. And yeah, Michael Lang, come see Cloudflex in the West Hall. Go check out Michael and Jonas. Michael's going to be there for sure. Go check out Cloudflex. Maybe they might have a little bit of a demo of Multiview along with that. But yeah, definitely Cloudflex is like one of the coolest things. If you didn't see their launch party, go watch the replay on LinkedIn. Really freaking cool what they're doing. Like I mentioned before, this is headless now, so you do not need a GPU to run this. We have custom multi-view layouts with captions. So we're going to be expanding that soon to include UMD support. This is going to be available for Windows. We're going to have x86 64, so 64-bit builds for Intel and AMD. We've got builds for Linux x64, so Intel, AMD, and for ARM 64, so Raspberry Pi 5, RK3588, platforms like that. And we're going to also have Mac OS for Apple Silicon, and that's going to be coming sometime in Q2. Software distribution on Mac is kind of a prickly thing, unfortunately, so that's going to have to come later. Joe says, I have no idea how you got this so performant with CPU rendering, but it's impressive. So yeah, I'm not going to lie, a big part of what has made some of this performant is me sitting down with Claude and ChatGPT and just going back and forth and testing and benchmarking and trying to optimize the heck out of this thing. So it's like, it's just trying to pull out every last little bit of performance, right? So it was a lot of fun. So that's the new stuff in Multiview for NDI. And then later this year, some of the other features that we're going to be bringing in. Like I mentioned, we're going to have NDI HX output on Mac OS. We're going to be providing AWS AMIs for cloud deployment. So if you want to deploy this in a cloud environment yourself, bring your own license, you'll be able to do that. Custom PNG overlays. So sometimes you might want to have like some sort of a tally indicator or some sort of a custom logo or something like that. We're going to have that support in there as well. I plan to integrate the TSL SDK as well so that we can have external tally support. That has been a huge, huge feature request. The reason that I've kind of delayed putting a bunch of these different features in, and the reason it's taken so long is I really wanted to make sure that the core engine, the rendering engine, was performant before we went live with this. Because if it wasn't performant and it wasn't fit for purpose, I didn't feel comfortable putting it out. So I've really tried to focus on the engine first, and we can kind of build it out from there. So, and then after that, we got a few more surprises coming a little later this year. Now, I want to talk about licensing. So a couple weeks ago, I put a poll out on LinkedIn asking, what would you like to see for a license model for the new Multiview for NDI? Should we do perpetual? Should we do subscription? Or should we, consider something else? And the results were kind of overwhelming, and everybody wants to do perpetual. So who am I to disagree? Multiview licenses are now perpetual licenses. NDI Multiview licenses are now perpetual licenses, and they are now $97 a license with a year of free upgrades. 97 bucks a license, a year free upgrades. So we're also we're not just releasing this new version, I'm also dropping the price of this. So $97 a year. So $97 a license, perpetual license. And you get a year of free upgrades with that. And then after that year is done, if you want to continue to receive the latest and greatest updates, it's just $47 a license. Just $47 a license. So, hopefully that, pricing is always a tricky thing because you don't want to you don't want to price it too low and then everybody looks at it and goes, oh, this is just a stupid thing. You don't want to price it too high and everybody goes, ooh, that's way too expensive. And just speaking honestly for a second here, I feel like I might have, I probably did overprice the original version of Multiview relative to the features that it did offer. So, I want to make sure that it is nice and reasonable for everybody. Next, though, I want to talk about, well, not quite next, but if you don't want to upgrade to a new version, you just want to buy your perpetual license and be done with it, that's cool. So the way that Multiview for NDI works now is that there's no online activation, none of the online stuff needed, no internet access needed to make it work at all. So you can put Multiview for NDI in a completely disconnected environment and it will work just fine. It'll work just fine. Is that Canadian dollars? No, it's US dollars because our exchange rate sucks. Hey, I gotta do that, right? So if you don't want to upgrade your license at the end of that 1 year and you just want to keep a perpetual license, that's cool. Your Multiview for NDI instances are just going to keep working. All good. All good. Now I want to talk about folks that have existing licenses, existing subscriptions for Multiview for NDI. You're going to see a couple changes in the next few days. So for everybody that has bought Multiview for NDI licenses in the past, first off, big freaking thank you. I can't thank you enough. It's, it means, every purchase means the world. Like, it's this company that I've got, I'm not running some major Fortune 500 mega conglomerate organization, that can spend $2 million on, the coffee budget for the year. I'm the guy that programmed this. So if it works for you and you like it, then I'm the guy that you love. And if you don't like it, then I'm the guy that you hate, right? I'm the one that programmed it along with ChatGPT, helped me with certain bits where I needed to pull out performance. But it's just me, right? And I've got, behind the scenes today also, I've got the incredible Luke Westlake and Michael Van Rossum producing as well. So I couldn't do this without them, and I couldn't do this without all of you. Everybody that's downloaded, shared, reacted to stuff on LinkedIn, grabbed my tools that were on Gumroad, have supported any of the GitHub stuff, bought Multiview licenses, bought router licenses, freaking thank you. Like, it means the world. So I want to get you back for this. For everybody that's got an existing subscription, I'm going to give you 2 perpetual licenses per subscription that you have. So what we're going to be doing is that 99 per install. That's 97 USD per license. So think of it like kind of the vMix style. Like, you buy a vMix, you buy like one of the vMix 4K licenses or whatever they've got these days, their perpetual license, and it's just, you can run that on your one machine. And the reason that I'm doing it that way, by the way, is because Multiview for NDI, you can send out as many multiviewers from one instance as your machine will support. So some machines support 1 or 2 outputs, some machines support like 5 or 6, depends on your machine. I don't want to get into, look, I spent my formative years, how do I say this? I'm going completely off script here. I spent my formative years in computer science, learning how to write code, learning how to, break copy protection, as it were. So I understand kind of how easy it can be to actually break copy protection, right? So I want to find a nice balance between sort of deterring the casual copy versus not bringing down a show. And that is one fundamental rule that I've tried to abide by when building this application out, is that a failure in any of the licensing subsystem must not take down a show. So even in the existing Multiview, if the license activation check failed, it makes an assumption that the servers are down or that something external is wrong, and it'll just keep working. It'll just keep working. There's no hidden gotchas. There's no hidden things that, say, oh, this is pirated, it's going to crash. So, I'm trying to strike a nice balance between a lot of conflicting interests. And as a programmer, I've got a lot of conflicting opinions on that. Another question is the license OS agnostic? Yeah, that's correct. So you buy a Multiview for NDI license, you can use it on Mac, you can use it on Windows, you can use it on Linux. So yeah, for existing supporters, if you've got a subscription to every subscription that you have to Multiview for NDI, we're going to convert that into perpetual licenses. So we're still figuring out how to make that work on the payment platform that we use, Lemon Squeezy. But once I got that figured out, we'll just issue those licenses and get all that stuff done. You won't have to worry. Your credit card's not going to get charged for any further subscription stuff. So don't worry about that. So yeah, you're going to receive 2 perpetual licenses per subscription. And your new perpetual licenses, by the way, they're going to start as of today. I'm going to get you, we're going to get more details as soon as possible. We might actually shift kind of the quote unquote 1-year expiration date, probably an extra month because we're still kind of in quote unquote public beta, but more details are going to follow about that. So I got you. And then again, if you have an existing subscription for Multiview for NDI, after a year, if you want to get latest upgrades, I'm going to toss you a 50% off coupon just to say an extra freaking thank you for supporting this stuff. Really appreciate you. And if you want to go buy the new version of Multiview for NDI, you can do that right now. It's available at multiviewforndi.com. multiviewforndi.com. When you check out, your checkout email will have a link to view orders, and in there will be the downloads for the Windows x64 and the Linux x64 versions, along with the downloads for router for NDI as well. So both of those are going to be included. They're available through lemonsqueezy.com. And yeah, just go to multiviewforndi.com and you can grab the latest version. I also want to talk about features, adding new features on. If you want to see a new feature added faster, I've never done this before, but I decided, what the heck, let's start up a coffee, right? Coffee's kind of like Patreon, except it's called coffee and they take less of the cut. So more, if you contribute something to my coffee, more of it goes to me instead of just Patreon. I kind of wanted to go with Patreon because, Patreon, the sellout Pokemon, but anyway. Oh yes, for EU customers, be sure to put your VAT ID in. That's an important thing. Thank you, Jonas. So yeah, if you want to see a feature added faster, you can go over to my coffee and go sponsor that feature. And if you're interested in adding Multiview to your product as well, if you've got like a hardware product, hardware Multiview or something, I just got to throw that out there. We should chat, okay? So open to porting that to different platforms. One of the reasons that I've spent a lot of time trying this on, Raspberry Pis and Intel and Mac and everything else is because I want to keep this as portable as possible. So, all right. I want to talk about one last thing before we go today. So, one of the reasons that I was able to put together the original versions of Multiview was because I had access to a ton of open source libraries, right? Like Simple Direct Media Library is open source. The original C# wrapper for NDI, that's open source. So there's all this open source goodness, and I'm going to be open sourcing Multiview for NDI's rendering engine. So we're going to take the render engine from Multiview for NDI. We're going to open source this guy. So that's to come. I got to separate out that code and get that out on GitHub, but that is coming. So we're going to be open sourcing Multiview for NDI's core rendering engine. Why am I doing that? I want to see all of us who are developers in the NDI and audiovisual over IP space create some really freaking cool applications for NDI. I want to see us really all of us kickstart this software-defined audiovisual over IP revolution. It is coming. We are seeing it everywhere. What NDI has enabled for us at our company, the fact that we can put on events and run one cable instead of a bunch of different ones and have these incredible, beautiful productions that, with a fraction of the cost has been such a huge driver for our business. And I want to see more adoption of NDI. I want to see more adoption of AV over IP in general. And part of the way that we're going to do this is by having tools and bits and pieces that we can bolt together and make awesome applications. So I'm going to be open sourcing Multiview for NDI's rendering engine in the coming weeks. Again, let's get this release out. I'll get those bits, shelled out. Today, though, you can go and download the NVENC encoder wrapper for C#. So that is open source. This part, the part in Multiview for NDI that actually takes the NDI frame and converts it into, or takes the YUV canvas and converts it into an NVENC signal and then sends that down the wire, that's already open source. Also, my C# wrapper for NDI based on NDI's original release, that's open source. And I've got a wrapper for the advanced SDK for C#, that is also open source as well. So all these different bits and pieces, they're going to be open source. I want to see us kickstart this revolution and really take advantage of, the CPU power that we have sitting around, right? So we're going to be open sourcing a whole bunch of these different bits and pieces. I want to see some really cool stuff happen in the NDI space. So that's all I've got for today. If you're interested in Multiview for NDI, you want to support this, please head over to multiviewforndi.com. This has been a lot of, I've spent a decent amount of time on this. I hesitate to say this is my passion because every entrepreneur says that, and passion's kind of BS sometimes. But I've been relying on this product for myself, right? Like I mentioned, I put one of the original alpha versions and used it in a critical production for a client. So I don't want to just put software out there for the sake of putting software out there. I'm literally trying to eat our own dog food, right? So I hope that, I hope you enjoy Multiview for NDI. Right now, what's available right now is a public beta, so there's still little bits and pieces that are rough around the edges, but they're going to get refined over the next coming weeks. Like I mentioned, in Q2, we're going to focus on getting the Mac builds out. We're going to focus on getting TSL stuff out. I really want to do this right, though. So if we have to delay features because we just need to make them a little bit more robust, then we will do just that. But that's all I've got for now. Wow, what is wrong with you? That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. You can tell it's your passion from the mess behind you. Well, yeah. I mean, NDI is just freaking cool, right? Like the fact that this works at all. Like that this it's a freaking miracle that this stuff works when you think about it. Like the fact that we can take a video source, like my camera right now. I'm walking the walk. My camera right now, this camera, Logitech Mevo, right? I'm using NDI. I'm relying on NDI. My production team, it's all NDI all over the place. So, I'm trying to walk the walk here. I think this is some of the coolest, most important technology as well. And it's, we've got an incredible future ahead. If you're going to be at NAB, come find me. I'm going to be wandering all the different halls, going from booth to booth. Don't have a specific schedule set up yet, but I will be there. Looking forward to seeing folks. So yeah, that's where we are for today. So everybody, I appreciate the heck out of everybody here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this launch party. Thank you so much for being here. If you bought licenses in the past, support any of my stuff, thank you so much. I appreciate the heck out of you. Huge thanks to Michael and Luke behind the scenes producing this. Usually I'm the one punching the stream decks, but today it's those guys. So thank you both very much. Thank you, everybody. And I will see you, if you're at NAB, I will see you then. And otherwise, I'll see you on LinkedIn and online, I'm sure. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Cheers. See you at NAB. Bye.